Lila had always believed that old houses held stories. Some whispered them in creaks and groans, others in silence. But she never expected a melody to pull her into someone else's life. It was a rainy Thursday evening when she found herself wandering down Willow Street, umbrella dripping and shoes soaked. She had passed the Marlowe house countless times as a child, its paint peeling and windows dusty. Neighbors said it had been empty for years, ever since the old owner, Mr. Whitaker, passed away. Most avoided it, claiming it felt wrong. Leela never believed in ghosts, but tonight something drew her closer. As she neared the front gate, a soft, lilting tune drifted through the rain. It wasn't loud, barely audible over the storm, but unmistakably human. Leela froze, her heart skipping a beat. Music? From that empty house? She stepped cautiously onto the porch, her fingers brushing wet wood. The door, though aged, creaked open as if inviting her in. Inside, the house smelled of dust and memories. Faded curtains swayed slightly in the wind, and the grand staircase loomed like a sentinel. Leela's eyes darted around, searching for the source of the music. It was coming from the living room. She walked slowly, the sound growing warmer, richer, and unmistakably real. It was a piano. But that didn't make sense. She remembered reading that the house's piano had been out of tune for decades. Her curiosity outweighed caution. She followed the melody, each note tugging at something deep in her chest. And then she saw him. A young man, perhaps in his late 20s, seated at the piano. His hair was dark, his expression absorbed, almost haunted. He didn't notice her at first, completely lost in the music. Lila stood frozen, mesmerized by the intensity with which he played. It wasn't just skill, it was emotion. Every key seemed to carry a story. "Hello?" she finally whispered. The sound of her voice made him startle. His hands faltered for a moment, the last chord echoing into the empty corners of the room. He turned slowly, eyes wide but gentle, as if seeing her for the first time. "Oh, I didn't expect anyone here," he said, his voice soft, almost hesitant. I heard the music. I had to see." Leela trailed off, unsure how to explain the pull she had felt. He smiled faintly. "I don't usually play for anyone. This house, it's kind of my secret refuge." Leela nodded, stepping closer. "I've walked past this house my whole life. I never knew it still had someone in it, or music." He chuckled softly, a sound that seemed to blend perfectly with the lingering notes in the air. Music has a way of surviving, even when everything else is forgotten. There was a pause, a quiet that didn't feel empty. It was like the house itself was holding its breath. Leela wanted to speak, to ask why, but she didn't want to break the fragile bubble of the moment. After what felt like hours, the young man finally closed the piano lid. "I'm Adrian," he said, standing and offering a hand. Leela shook it, feeling an unexpected warmth, a connection that shouldn't have been possible with a stranger. "I'm Leela," she replied. She looked around the room again, noticing the details she had missed. The photographs on the mantel, dusty books stacked haphazardly, a painting of a woman smiling softly, almost sadly. There was history here, more than she had expected. Adrian's eyes followed hers. "That woman was my mother. She loved this house, and the piano was her favorite companion. I've been trying to bring it back to life." Something about the confession made Leela ache in a way she couldn't explain. The house felt alive now, the music a bridge connecting past and present, strangers and memories. The rain outside softened to a drizzle, but neither of them moved. The silence was full of unspoken words, of stories yet to be revealed. Lila felt a strange sense of destiny, as though stepping into this abandoned home wasn't an accident. And then, as if the house had heard her thoughts, the piano began to play again, softly this time, hesitant, almost beckoning. Adrian sat down, inviting her without a word. Lila took a hesitant step forward, drawn by a curiosity she couldn't resist. The air felt electric, like the start of something that neither of them could predict, yet both somehow needed. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. The last chord lingered, vibrating through the walls, and Lila realized she had stumbled into more than just a house. She had stepped into a secret, one that might change everything. The rain had stopped entirely by the time Lila and Adrian moved to the living room couch. The soft light from a single lamp made the shadows dance across the walls. Every corner of the house seemed to hold a memory, a quiet story waiting to be told. "I never thought anyone would just walk in here," Adrian admitted, leaning back. His fingers drummed lightly on the piano lid. "Most people see this place and think it's just abandoned. They don't look closer." Lila nodded, feeling the weight of those words. She had grown up in this neighborhood, watching families come and go, always guessing at what went on behind closed doors. But this felt different. It was like she had found a hidden world tucked away in plain sight. "I've always loved music," she said softly. "I play a little myself, though I haven't had the courage to perform in front of anyone. Music, it feels safer when it's just yours." Adrian's gaze softened. It's funny, isn't it? Music can be the most private thing and the most public all at once. One note can change a day, a memory, even a life. Lila smiled at the thought, and sometimes it leads you to unexpected places. Her eyes flicked toward him, and for a brief moment, she caught something in his expression, a vulnerability that made the house feel even more alive. Adrian nodded slowly. Exactly that. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "You want to hear the story behind this house? My mother, she was a pianist. Everyone loved her music, even strangers. After she passed, the house became silent. I couldn't bear it, so I started playing again, quietly, to feel close to her. But no one else had heard me, until now." Lila felt a pang in her chest. She had experienced loss herself, the kind that left a quiet ache that no one could fill. And now, here was someone else carrying the same weight, using music as a bridge to the past. "I understand," she said simply. "Sometimes the past isn't gone. It's just waiting for someone to listen." He smiled faintly, and for a moment the air between them seemed to hum with something unspoken. Lila didn't know if it was curiosity, attraction, or something deeper, but it felt undeniable. A sudden noise from upstairs made them both jump. Footsteps? Or was it just the old house settling? Adrian shook his head. Probably just the floorboards. This house, it creaks like it's alive. Lila laughed quietly, tension easing. It does have a personality. Adrian's gaze lingered on her. "You're different, Lila. Most people would have turned around and left at the first sound of music from an empty house. But you stayed." The compliment caught her off guard. She looked down, brushing a strand of wet hair behind her ear. "I guess I've always been curious about things most people ignore." He nodded, and the room fell silent again, filled only with the faint ticking of a clock and the echo of lingering notes in the corners. Then Adrian spoke softly. "There's something else, something I haven't told anyone." Lila leaned in slightly, sensing the importance of his words. "What is it?" He hesitated, as if weighing how much to reveal. My mother left behind letters. I found them hidden in the piano bench last week. I haven't read them all yet. I don't know why, but something tells me they were meant to be found. And I feel like you might be part of that story. Her heart skipped a beat. She had stumbled into this house expecting curiosity and perhaps nostalgia. She hadn't expected to be drawn into a mystery, one that belonged to someone else's life, and yet somehow seemed entwined with her own. Adrian rose and walked toward the piano, lifting the small, worn bench. Inside were several envelopes, yellowed and fragile. The handwriting was elegant, precise, yet the ink had faded with time. "Would you help me?" he asked quietly. "I don't know why, but I can't do this alone. These letters, they feel important, like they're meant to tell me something, or someone." Leela hesitated for only a second. There was a thrill in the unknown, in stepping into someone else's story and possibly discovering a piece of her own. She reached forward, touching the top envelope. The paper was cool beneath her fingers, almost vibrating with significance. They opened the first letter together. The words were personal, heartfelt, filled with dreams and confessions. Lila felt tears prick at her eyes as she read aloud, realizing the letters weren't just about the past. They were about hope, forgiveness, and love lost and found. Adrian watched her closely, his hand hovering near hers as they passed the letters back and forth. "I never expected someone to care enough to read them with me," he whispered. The connection between them deepened in that small, quiet living room, where rain-soaked streets and an abandoned house faded into the background. Music, loss, and secrets had drawn them together in a way neither could explain. And then, as they unfolded the second letter, a name appeared, one neither of them expected. Leela gasped, her hands trembling slightly. The words suggested a past neither she nor Adrian had anticipated, a secret that could change everything they thought they knew about the house and each other. The room felt suddenly colder, the shadows longer, and the music from the piano seemed to echo from a distant memory. The name on the letter made Leela's heart race. She read it aloud, her voice shaking slightly. "Evelyn Marlowe?" She paused, looking at Adrian. This is your mother's name?" Adrian nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on the faded handwriting. "Yes, but this letter, it's different. She mentions someone she loved, someone she thought would never understand, someone connected to this house long before I was born." Leela felt a shiver run down her spine. "Do you think it's someone still around?" He swallowed hard, the weight of his own thoughts visible in his expression. "I don't know, but the way she wrote, it feels like she was leaving clues, like she wanted this person, and maybe me, to find them someday." They sat in silence for a moment, the letters spread across the piano bench like pieces of a puzzle. Rain from earlier had left a faint dampness in the air, mingling with the faint scent of old wood and paper. Leela realized she hadn't felt such a strange mix of anticipation and fear in a long time. "Why are you showing me this?" she asked softly. "I feel like I'm stepping into something I don't fully understand." Adrian looked at her, his gaze intense. "Because I think I can't do this alone. And somehow I think you were meant to be here tonight. This house, these letters, maybe they brought you here for a reason." Leela felt her chest tighten. There was something magnetic about him, about the way he trusted her despite barely knowing her. And she realized the pull that had drawn her in. The music, the house, the secrets. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was connection. Together, they began reading through the rest of the letters, one by one. Each one painted a picture of Adrian's mother as a woman of extraordinary kindness and intelligence, someone who had quietly shaped the lives of those around her. But intertwined with these memories were hints of regret, choices made in silence, and a secret love that had never been revealed. "This," Adrian said, voice barely above a whisper. "She loved someone she could never be with, and she left me these letters, almost like a map, so I could understand her decisions and maybe forgive her." Leela watched him carefully. "Do you feel angry or sad?" "I feel confused," he admitted, "and curious, and sad, yes, but also strangely hopeful. It's like she's guiding me through a story I wasn't part of before, and now I am. I just don't know what comes next." Her own pulse quickened. The sense of mystery, the fragments of a past coming alive, was almost overwhelming. "Maybe the next step is to follow the clues," she suggested, glancing at the letters. "See where they lead. Don't you think that's why she left them?" Adrian's eyes lit up with a mixture of determination and relief. "You might be right." They spent the next hour piecing together the hints from the letters. Some mentioned locations, hidden rooms, forgotten gardens, and even a small cottage by the edge of the city. Others contained cryptic messages that seemed to point towards someone waiting, someone who had once loved Evelyn Marlowe and might still be alive somewhere. The house itself seemed to respond. The faint creaks of the floorboards became rhythmic, almost like applause for their progress. The piano, though untouched for now, seemed to hum with expectation, as if urging them forward. Leela realized that with every letter, the lines between past and present blurred. She was no longer just an observer. She was part of the unfolding story, intertwined with Adrian and the echoes of his mother's life. As they prepared to leave the house for the evening, rain returning lightly outside, Adrian glanced at her. "I don't know what tomorrow will bring," he said quietly, "but I want you with me, if you're willing to follow this, every step of the way." Leela hesitated only briefly. I want to see where it leads," she admitted. They stepped out into the wet night, the air crisp and electric. The street lights cast long reflections on the puddles, and for the first time, Lila felt the thrill of a real adventure. She had walked into a house by chance, but now she was walking into a mystery with someone she could barely explain feeling for. As they reached the sidewalk, a shadow shifted across the window of the Marlowe house. A figure had been watching them, unseen, waiting for the right moment. Lila shivered, not entirely from the cool night air. "What was that?" she whispered, glancing at Adrian. He followed her gaze, frowning slightly. "I don't know, but it looks like the past isn't done revealing itself." The letters had opened a door into secrets long buried, but it seemed that someone, or something, was still very much present, and Leela realized that the journey was only beginning. The following morning, the sky was pale with the early winter sun. Leela and Adrian met outside the Marlowe house, bundled in coats and scarves. The letters had left them restless and full of questions. Each clue seemed more urgent than the last. Adrian held the first envelope. "The letters mentioned a garden," he said, "a place she loved. She called it her secret sanctuary. If we start there, maybe we'll find more." Leela nodded, a shiver of anticipation running down her spine. "Do you think it's still there?" "There's only one way to find out," Adrian replied with a small smile. They walked through the neighborhood, past familiar houses and empty lots, until they reached the edge of the city where the roads became narrower, lined with old trees. Behind a weathered iron gate, almost hidden by overgrown vines, lay a small garden. The gate creaked as Adrian pushed it open. The garden was wild and untamed, yet beautiful. Faded flowers clung to the soil, and the remnants of a stone pathway led to a tiny gazebo. Leela's heart caught in her chest. "It's perfect," she whispered. Adrian approached the gazebo, bending to lift a loose floorboard. Underneath, they discovered another envelope, sealed and yellowed with age. His hands trembled slightly as he opened it. The letter inside was addressed directly to Adrian, written in a familiar, flowing script. "My dearest Adrian," it began, "if you are reading this, it means you have found your way here. You must know that I loved you before you were born, in the way only a parent can love. But there is more. Someone you must meet. Someone who carries a part of me and your story." Leela watched Adrian read, noticing the emotion in his eyes. "Who is it?" she asked softly. "I don't know," he admitted, "but she left hints, directions that will lead me to them. I think it might be someone who knew her before I existed, someone important." The letters seemed to breathe life into the air around them. The garden was no longer just a forgotten place. It was a bridge connecting past and present. Lila felt the pull of something bigger than either of them, a story unfolding with every step they took. As they left the garden, Adrian and Leela followed the directions from the letters. They led them down twisting streets and into quiet neighborhoods. Finally, they arrived at a small, modest cottage tucked behind a row of birch trees. "This must be it," Adrian whispered. His hand hovered over the door. Leela felt a mixture of excitement and fear. "Do you want to knock?" Adrian hesitated, then nodded. He raised his hand and knocked softly. For a moment, there was silence. Then the door opened, and a woman in her 60s appeared. Her eyes were sharp, yet kind. "Adrian?" she asked, her voice catching slightly. "I wasn't sure you would come." Adrian swallowed hard. I think you knew my mother." The woman nodded. "I did, and she wanted you to meet me. There are things she never told you, things she hoped you would discover on your own." Leela watched the scene, feeling the weight of the moment. The woman stepped aside, inviting them in. The interior of the cottage was warm and welcoming, filled with photographs, books, and small mementos of a life fully lived. As Adrian and the woman sat, Leela noticed a piano in the corner. Its surface was polished and well cared for, unlike the one in the Marlowe house. She felt a pang of curiosity. Music seemed to flow through this story like a river, guiding each step, each discovery. "Your mother and I were close," voice steady but soft. "Your mother and I were close, more than friends, though perhaps not in the way you might imagine. She left me letters too, instructions to guide you. She hoped you would find not just answers, but connection." Adrian leaned forward, listening intently. Lila realized that the journey wasn't just about uncovering secrets. It was about understanding, forgiveness, and building bridges where none had existed before. Then the woman paused, her eyes drifting to Lila. "And you," she said, voice gentle, "you are part of this story too. I don't know how, but your presence was meant to help Adrian find his way. Sometimes, the people we meet at the right moment are as important as the story itself." Leela's heart quickened. She hadn't expected to be drawn so deeply into someone else's life. Yet here she was, an invisible thread weaving through past and present. She felt a strange mix of joy and apprehension, knowing that the next revelation could change everything. Adrian reached out and took her hand, squeezing it briefly. "Thank you for being here," he said quietly. "I don't know how I would have done this alone." "There's one more thing," she said. "Something your mother wanted you to have, Adrian. It's a gift, but also a message, and it might explain everything. The music, the letters, the house. Are you ready?" Adrian looked at Leela, then back at the woman, and nodded. Leela felt her pulse race. Whatever was inside that chest had the power to change everything they thought they knew about the past and the future. The chest creaked open, revealing an assortment of objects carefully wrapped in soft cloth. Adrian's hands trembled slightly as he lifted each item: a faded photograph, a silver locket, and finally, a small, worn music box. The room seemed to hold its breath as he set it on the table. Leela leaned closer, curiosity mingling with anticipation. "What is it?" she whispered. Adrian lifted the music box, turning the key. A gentle, haunting melody filled the cottage. It was the same tune he had played in the Marlowe house, the one that had drawn Lila there in the first place. The sound seemed to wrap around them, soft and tender, carrying decades of memories in its delicate notes. "This," Adrian said, voice choked. "This is the music she wanted me to hear. The same music she played for someone she loved, someone she wanted to protect. And now it's my turn to understand it." The woman smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Your mother believed that music could guide us to the truth, that it could bridge gaps between hearts and heal what time had broken. She left it here for you to find, not just as a memory, but as a key to what comes next." Leela felt a lump in her throat. She had never seen Adrian like this, so vulnerable, so alive in the presence of the past. And she realized, with a quiet certainty, that this moment was more than discovery. It was transformation. Adrian turned the music box slightly so Leela could see the delicate engravings. "Look," he said softly, "it's the same pattern as the piano keys in the Marlowe house. It's like she left a map, a trail through music, leading me to you, to her friends, to this story." Leela's eyes widened. "To me?" "Yes," he said, his gaze steady and warm. "You helped me see beyond the letters and the house. You were part of the journey, even before we met. I don't know why, but I think she knew someone like you would come along to guide me." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The music continued, wrapping around them like a soft embrace, pulling the past, present, and future into a single, fragile thread. Leela felt her hand brush against Adrian's, and he didn't pull away. The woman watched silently, as if letting them claim the moment for themselves. Then she spoke, her voice calm but firm. "Sometimes the secrets we carry aren't meant to be kept, they're meant to be shared. And sometimes the people we meet at the right moment help us heal in ways we never expected." Adrian nodded slowly, tears glimmering in his eyes. "I think I finally understand. The house, the letters, the music, it wasn't just about my mother. It was about connecting hearts, even across time. And now it's our turn to carry it forward." Leela's own chest tightened. She realized that the fear and curiosity that had drawn her to the Marlowe house had led to something far greater, a chance to witness love and memory, to be part of a story that transcended loss. The music box wound down, the final note lingering in the air. The room was silent again, but it didn't feel empty. It felt full, alive with the weight of what had been discovered and the promise of what was yet to come. Adrian carefully placed the music box back in the chest. "We should return it to the house," he said. "It belongs there, and maybe someday someone else will find it and be guided by it, just as I was." Leela nodded, feeling a warmth she hadn't anticipated. "I'll help you," she said, "every step of the way." Together, they returned to the Marlowe house. The rain had stopped completely, leaving the streets gleaming under the pale morning sun. The piano stood silently in the corner, waiting, as if it had been expecting them all along. Adrian placed the music box carefully atop it. As he did, the air seemed to shimmer, the faintest echo of music drifting from the piano keys, soft and tender. Leela realized that the house was no longer just a place of memories. It was alive with stories, ready to share its secrets with those who would listen. Adrian turned to her, a small smile playing on his lips. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for believing in the music, for following the story, for being here." Leela smiled back, feeling the same mixture of awe and tenderness. "I think this is just the beginning," she said. And in that quiet, sunlit room, surrounded by letters, music, and memories, Lila and Adrian realized that some places and some people arrive in your life at exactly the right time to teach you that love, loss, and hope are never truly separate. The Marlowe house, once empty and forgotten, now held warmth again, and its secrets whispered not of the past, but of new beginnings, of hearts connecting, stories intertwining, and the quiet magic that only music can bring. And somewhere in the distance, a single note lingered in the air, soft and unbroken, carrying the promise of everything yet to come. The story had started with curiosity and a melody, but it ended with connection, understanding, and the gentle certainty that some secrets, when finally heard, can change lives forever.